Welcome back to the Making a Multi-Million-Dollar Medspa podcast, where we have real conversations about what it takes to run a successful business. Thank you for joining us as we share our day-to-day successes and, even more importantly, failures and mistakes. Listen in as we host some of our peers, colleagues, and other experts in the field. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Welcome to Season 4 of the Making a Multi-Million-Dollar Medspa podcast. This season promises to be a fan favorite with exceptional guests, valuable insights, and a new host. Each guest will be participating in 2 episodes. The first, like the one you're listening to right now, introduces the guest, helps you get to know them, and identifies their area of expertise. Listen to each episode and submit any questions you have to the guest to answer. Your questions will be used to create the Part 2 follow-up episode that will be added to our e-courses. Questions can be submitted through Instagram, via email, or at the link in our show notes. We hope you'll join us and share some of your questions along the way. Now on to the episode.
Well, hey there, this is Dr. Jay Burns. We're for Med Aesthetics, and we're on their premier platform today. And it's the podcast that we've been doing with KOLs and interesting people. And I'll do a lot of these, I hope, and we're not done. We've really enjoyed it. But I have to be honest with you, there's no one, I'm going to love one more than all the rest of them. It's one's today. It's my daughter. Okay. I did not see that coming, but anyway, it's my daughter, Molly Austin, and she's a dermatologist here in Dallas. And if you're wondering if I'm on my last leg, I feel great, but I've lost my voice today. So this will be the podcast with my sexy voice, and you're just going to have to deal with it. So it was Kathy's idea to interview Molly, and she thought it would be great because she's heard so much about her from me. And I may be biased, but I think she's done a really great job at starting a practice. And so it's a lot of this. She's in the same stage as a lot of people that are listening to this podcast, a lot of people that come to my preceptorships, a lot of people that we see at meetings that we train and that Kathy and Matt train. So we thought it'd be great because there is probably a special dynamic with Molly and I. We're super frank. No softball questions today. And I just thought we would have her tell about starting her practice, her journey, what she did right, what she do different. She's a mom. We're going to talk about how she balances that, but we hope overall it has a great application for your practice. So Molly, it's amazing that you're here. I'm really excited about it. So thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah. Okay. So some of these seem like nepotism right off the bat, but we ask everybody kind of, where did you grow up? And tell us about your resume, high school, college, med school, what got you to this point?
Yeah. So I grew up in Dallas, Texas, and I went to Highland Park High School and then went to Baylor for undergrad, and then went to med school at University of Texas Health Science Center, San Antonio. And then residency, actually came back for internal medicine intern year at Baylor in Dallas, and then did derm residency at UT Southwestern. And then right after I graduated residency, I joined a just solo practitioner that had been in practice for probably 15 years. And he just offered me a job and promised me I'd be busy right away. It was kind of in a city kind of south of Dallas. And he just said, hey, come on in, you'll be busy. You'll see a lot of diverse medical derm, and we'll get you maybe some cosmetic experience. But I knew that wasn't really what I was getting into. It was really just the experience, real life private practice experience after residency that I wanted. And so joined him, was with him for 4 years, and then started my own practice with a partner here in Dallas in 2019. So it'll be 4 years this summer that we have been open.
Well, let's stop there for a second, because that's a great overview. And then what I'd like to do is go back and unpeel a little bit how you made some of those decisions. And I think it's really important. I think you have a really good both of us really kind of have a unique perspective on the whole market now for roll-ups and private equity, and how that impacted you, how it's impacted me, and we're going to talk about that a lot because I think a lot of people are asking that question. But what I'd love to talk about right now is I'm going to go back. You grew up. I certainly know some of the answers to this, but I think they know a little bit about your father, but tell them a little bit about your mom and growing up and what that was like, and
Well, yeah. So I mean, grew up with an amazing mom and dad, and dad. You really were all, I mean, dad's obviously growing up with a father that's a physician. I saw you work hard. I saw you love your job. And mom is truly has always been and will forever be just kind of the entity that keeps our world afloat, right? For both of us, I think. And, so from, but grew up in a loving family, parents been married for almost 50 years, and mom stayed at home with me, stayed at home with the kids, but also again, just was, I knew she was kind of why everything, kept afloat. And I saw her be just your partner and your, life assistant. And she kind of continues to be both of ours to this day, to be honest, and just helps us keep things churning.
There's no question about that. It's kind of a joke for sure. She keeps us going. So when you look back at the influential people in your life, and I'm not, it's whoever it is. Is it a professor? Is it a high school, college, medical school, family member, whoever it is? Who do you think have led you and some important things that you learned along the way in your journey?
Well, yeah, I mean, truly, I mean, the irony is I'm having this podcast with you, but of course it's no secret that I mean, people ask me all the time, why did you become a doctor? How did you know you wanted to do, dermatology, cosmetics, whatnot? And, I mean, it was, I was thinking back on, we have this conversation we had on an airplane ride. You probably don't even remember this, but maybe you do, but we had this conversation on an airplane ride one time. I don't know. I think maybe I was in early college, but you were almost trying to kind of, I was like, I want to be a doctor. I think I want to be a doctor. And you were like, I just want you to really think through. I want you to know that don't look at me now and see what I've become and any success I've had and just think that you blink and that happens, and that, you make money right off the bat and you're busy right off the bat, and that it's just this. And my schedule now, I think too, you were able to make the soccer games and things because you were well in your practice. And he was like, and you were like, just don't think that that's just happens in a blink. And not that you were trying to dissuade me, but you wanted me to really see the full picture of what it would take to become a physician. And I appreciated that. But I remember just looking at you and going, well, Dad, there's just nothing else that makes me more excited than being a doctor. And I would think I was in a physiology class in college that just, I mean, I remember going to the class, learning about the human body and just like loving studying that class, like just being like in awe of the human body. Right. And I remember telling you that, and you were like, well, I don't have an answer for you. I guess you have to do it. So,
I totally remember that. I was actually going to tell the story. I don't remember. It's kind of funny what I do remember and what I don't remember, but I don't remember it being on a plane, but I definitely remember the high points. And that I thought you missed the early parts of my career, in the residency in general surgery, where I was working 100 hours a week, and my free flaps after head and neck reconstruction for cancer and breast, and I was up till 2 or 3 o'clock in the night. I remember telling you, Molly, I really used to work for a living. And I've worked hard my whole life, but I just wanted you to be aware of it. And I definitely remember I got the message. As I tell the story, and by the way, Jenny's the one that always corrects our stories because she remembers everything. But I'm glad she's not here, or we'd never get to this podcast. But I remember you saying something like, Dad, what else am I going to do? This is what I love. And I said, okay, that's what I needed to hear. And so I remember that a lot. But I think, so tell us when you decided that you wanted to be a dermatologist and what led you to that.
Well, and I think, in that same vein, just talking about, your influence there was, I mean, I remember being in medical school and us talking, and when I'm trying to figure out what I want to specialize in, I didn't love the OR like you loved the OR. I didn't really like just the sterile formality of a big surgery. And it wasn't as, I wanted the hits of all the people and conversations and all the things. And I remember telling you, I just love clinic. I love when I can pop into a room and pop out and just have good chat. I mean, talking with people all day long. And I remember you being like, you know what, you should really look into dermatology, because I have some buddies and they really, love it and doing good and have a good schedule and make good money for, and love what they do. And it's a great way to kind of be in cosmetics but not have to do like the surgeries if you don't want to. And so then, I mean, you hooked me up with, Clay Cockrell here in Dallas, and I went and shadowed him in clinic and wrote some case reports and just got my foot in the door with meeting people, which, as we all know, establishing connections is, just the name of the game sometimes. I mean, you obviously have to have the numbers and get into residency programs and such, but you helped plug me in to meet people that helped me along this journey, right? And so ended up doing away rotations in dermatology and just fell in love with it and knew that it fit my personality, right? I think I've always said, in med school, that, just honest, it's humbling to say this, but like the code blues and the really stressful situations were not my wheelhouse. I loved the idea of making somebody's quality of life better and helping people without there being a life and death situation every day. And that was just me. I remember in med school go into, oncology rotations and literally crying in the rooms during the visits and being like, I can't, this is like too much for, like, I'm too emotional. I don't want to deal with necessarily this every day of my life, but I really want to help people and I really want to make people feel better. And this to me was such a great field to do that and accomplish that.
So since I started crying when I mentioned your name right off the top, where did you get your emotions from?
Yeah, exactly. I'll give you one guess. Yeah, that's a strong gene right there.
Yeah. So, well, it's a compliment, but they don't give the derm residencies away, and you made tremendous grades. And honestly, It's a true story that Molly would always, she didn't beat me by much, but she beat me by a little bit in her GPA in college and a little bit by her GPA in medical school. And, so you can't get into derm with just connection. So she's done very, very well. And so, so let's kind of dig into a little bit about your practice and how you got there, because let's go back. You were in practice here in town, and I'd forgotten, because at the end I always thought we practiced at the same hospital some in Medical City.
Yeah.
You were south of town. I'd forgotten that.
Well,
but
for like 3 days.
Then what brought that on, and now you went into solo practice. Let's talk about that transition and how hard it was to find yourself where it was sold, and then how you made that decision and what you were told. And I think that's really important for people to hear, because you were hearing it, everybody else is hearing the same thing.
Yeah. So I was in my practice with the solo practitioner for 4 years. And it was in a kind of south of Dallas area. I worked in North Dallas like 1 day a week, and that's where I started doing more of my cosmetics. But down in Cedar Hill, it was all medical and lots of diversity there, which I loved. There was, a point in time where my boss called me. I was just a contracted employer. I just made a percentage of everything I brought in. It was just, that was it. I made nothing off any extender or they didn't do a lot of cosmetics, but I didn't make anything off that. It was just everything I did 45%. And so he calls and tells me that he has decided to sell the practice to private equity. And so at the time it was also new, and I didn't really know what that was going to mean. And, at the time it was, renewing, contracts, because basically, I was having to redo contracts with this new group. And this is something I wanted to, I'm kind of jumping ahead to something that is why we ended up being successful in our new practice. But one thing I do want to mention for anybody that happens to be maybe a physician or a provider that's going to join a practice that maybe one day wants to do something on their own. When I signed right out of residency with this solo practitioner, I fought tooth and nail to make sure my non-compete was 1 mile from my office. And so when I just told him, I said, I'm not going to do it. And he, looked at me and said, okay, you know what, at the end of the day, I'll take you for how long as I can have you, and we'll do 1 mile. And so that was probably the best decision up front I ever made, because when that time came that I'll get to, it really helped us start our practice. So I signed there, and that was they did not want me to sign a 1 mile, not the private equity group that bought did not want me to sign another 1 mile. Of course, they wanted it to be 5 miles from every practice they own. And I just basically said no. And so my advice there would just be to put your foot down for non-competes when you know that at the end of the day, they'll probably give in, to be honest, if they want you bad enough. And so I fought for that and kept that.
Calling all aesthetic professionals. Get ready to boost your clinic's success with the Mint Aesthetics Management and Marketing Group Training event. At Mint Aesthetics, we understand the unique challenges you face in the industry, from costly turnover to effective social media strategy. That's why we are hosting a management and marketing group training on November 15th and 16th at our training facility in Kansas City. This event is designed to benefit your clinic, team, and clients. On day one, we'll be sharing the secrets to improved management processes that will streamline your clinic's operation. You'll hear from our own management team to see how they identify needs, adapt strategies to align with their role. Imagine a clinic that operates under one aligned ideal, providing guidance for your whole team and saving you time and resources. Day two focuses on marketing, how to make it easy, what works and what doesn't, and making the most of social media. This training will equip you with the tools to attract and retain more clients, making your clinic thrive. We are confident that this training will be incredibly helpful in providing the right tactics and process to support your clinic's growth. Don't miss the Mint Aesthetics Management and Marketing Group Training event on November 15th and 16th. Ready to unlock the benefits for your clinic? Give us a call at 913-338-2553 or visit mintaesthetics.com to register through our group training page. Elevate your clinic's success with Mint Aesthetics and join us to find where management excellence and marketing mastery come together.
And when the practice was sold, it didn't necessarily change my day to day, but it changed just the future of my career. Meaning, here I added to the value of the sale. Like our practice was evaluated, and what I brought in added to that. But he sold it, and I saw nothing of that money, and have no future of becoming a partner unless you signed your life away to become on their board. I wasn't ready to do that. I was 4 years in my practice, right? So my future was bright as far as I didn't know what I was going to do, but I knew I didn't want to stay in this forever, right? So, so that's really when I decided to leave. And again, I don't know how many details you want, but it's just a crazy.
I want to ask you a couple of things in terms of. I think a lot of people might guess what it was like, and I think you have a great relationship. I think I've never heard you say one bad word about your ex-partner there, but y'all get along great. You understood what he did,
yeah.
But the ramifications of selling were, I think the details of that might be important for them to know, like what frustrated you in that environment, because I think people want to know, what does that look like?
Yeah,
not to throw anybody under the bus.
No, yeah. Like I said, it really didn't impact my day to day. It felt like I will say, I think I felt a little betrayed in a way of like, I thought that it was him and and I wasn't opposed to the idea of one day me buying in and becoming partner. And I think that it was just, I thought we were maybe more of a team. And so I felt a little bit like, okay, so now other people are going to manage and be the if I came to you and said, hey, I want to buy a new laser, I want to do this, it really wouldn't be up to you. It'd be up to the private equity group. And so that made me feel like I lost a little bit of that personal connection with my partner. But yeah, no, but I will say, when I sat down and told him I was leaving, he looked at me and basically tried to convince me that it was too hard to do and that I'll never be successful because people are going to take advantage of me. I remember him specifically telling me that like, it's a cold world out there and they're going to take advantage of you. And it's hard to make it in a solo private practice or whatever, which is ironic because he did it. But I remember just feeling like, okay, he doesn't think I can do this. And I know he wasn't the only one that said that. So
no, I had people that I still know and love, and they came to me and was trying to tell me that you better talk to Molly because, this is the way it's going, and there's no way she's going to be able to make this work. And so we had some really interesting conversations. So you went ahead and did it. And so tell us how that's gone and what that process was like and what your practice is like now.
Yeah. So I always sort of knew in my mind that being young in my career, having at the time 2 young kids, I actually really wanted to do this with somebody else. It's funny. It's not everybody wants this. And I know you and I, Dad, even, had conversations about this, but I think, you and I talked about doing something together, but I always sort of knew that I wanted to have a partner in this. And so a Mohs surgeon that my current partner, Claire Reddick, and I had both worked with, she called me up one day and just said, hey, you and my current partner, Claire's office had also just been bought by private equity. Same exact, just mirrored situation. She was with a solo practitioner that was sold and was left feeling the same way. So the stars just aligned, and a Mohs surgeon called us both and said, y'all need to go to dinner and just talk. And so we really did. We went to dinner and had one long meal and just decided, that we should do this. And we always joke to this day, it's like, we literally did not know each other very well. Now, I'd done my homework on her and she had done her homework on me, and we both went to high school together and all these things. We knew we were, not crazy, but it's a pretty big commitment and it's a marriage, and we decided to just do it. But I think it was just, I believe, that there's a reason for everything, and that wasn't just coincidence, and that the Lord had a plan for that. And that was just what was supposed to happen. And so we decided to do it. And, but we had to do it very, secretively, of course, like we didn't tell our own practices for months. And so a lot of behind the scenes work. So we opened it up, July 2019. And then just to give you kind of overview of what my current practice is. So Claire and I started, it was just us. And then a few months in, we did hire a cosmetic nurse who started doing, we bought a hydrofacial and a BBL, and she started doing just photofacials and hydrofacials. And that was all she did at the very beginning. Oh, you want to pause? Okay.
No, I'm just going to, that's good. I was going to stop you there and say, you want to comment, like I know that you didn't get a lot. I mean, I think UT Southwestern is one of the most highly regarded derm derm programs in the country. And so there's no knock there, but I think I've seen a lot of dermatology. I run with a lot of dermatologists. Most people on this podcast are dermatologists, and I love them, but they will tell me themselves that even most programs, plastic surgery and derm, don't really spend a lot of time on aesthetics, right?
No. I mean, you have to. So what I did was you actually have to just fight for experience. I think with cosmetics, again, speaking just for dermatology, I mean, you have tiny little touch points in residency where you can get your hand on some toxin and filler, but you just don't really get experience. And so, I mean, I remember at my prior practice, I would just call friends and family and get the rep to give me samples of everything. And you just kind of be honest that you're kind of my guinea pig and I don't really know like all that I'm doing, but we're going to just learn. And you just learn, and you just put yourself out there, and you've got to just do it. And I think you take one thing at a time that you really want to master, and then you move on. But you kind of do have to fight for that experience. I do agree. So
how did you educate yourself? Because you were learning, but I assume that, you really, I mean, I know that we talked a little bit, there's no question about it. And you knew, probably over, I mean, I don't even remember the conversations, but I'm sure I told you there's a real future in this, and it's a perfect feed into to a dermatology practice. But I never forced you to do that. And I think, so it led you to going into derm. So I would like to know, and I think the reason I'm asking this question is I think people would like to know, okay, so you said you wanted to do it. So how did you start? How did you decide what was the first laser you wanted to buy? and who you were going to hire. I'd really like to know if you can remember the process that you made, because that's a step. And I'd like to know what were your hurdles and how did you get through them, and how did you get a comfort level? And if you were scared, that's fine, because I know you were. And and then let them know about those kind of things and how they could mimic that, what you did right, what you did wrong, that kind of thing.
Yeah. I think Claire and I, both having experience with prior practices, we knew what we were referring out, right? So we just, for me, I think, I think you'd probably agree with me that the patients, like, so I kind of started off with just doing toxins and filler, right? And then those patients just always ask about what else can we do, and everybody, can benefit from. I remember sending your office just all my photofacials. We didn't have a photofacial machine, so I was just sending them all to you. And so I came into this practice knowing what I was referring out, right? And so then we want it here. And so, so when we started, it was Claire and I, and
I would have been happy to keep treating them. I really would.
I know. I'm sure you would have. And yeah, you benefited for a long time from all my patients for sure. So, and so when we got here, we hired a cosmetic RN who had experience in injectables, but also with lasers. And so then we bought I think again, I don't know if we're allowed to talk about brand. We talk about all the brands and stuff, but
you are.
You brainwashed me to Sciton. I'm kidding. It's not brainwash. It's like, I learned from you and you told me how great it is. I have been getting BBL since I was 25 years old. I know they're amazing. And so I knew that's what I wanted to buy first. So we bought a BBL first, and she ran that. I wanted to have to a med spa. I think I wanted to have something kind of fluffy. And so we got a hydrofacial, and then I wanted something a little more, that's going to do really some work, and a little more, I just knew we needed a photofacial, a BBL, and so we got that. And then, gosh, since then, I don't know what all you want to know as far as what other devices we've added.
I want to know when you knew you needed another one, and what your next one was. I'd like to walk through that process, because a lot of people, Molly, ask me, what would be the first laser you would buy? And I always say BBL, because it's just the least downtime, but the most effective, and things like that. You may want to add to that. And then what did you add next?
Right. Well, then, and so this is something I might have done differently though. So because the next thing we added was the halo to that BBL. I would tell you, having had a M-Jewel for 2 years now, we're about to buy our second one. If I could go back, I think buying just an M-Jewel, a BBL Moxie, would be one of the best investments you can make in your med spa, like the first thing you buy. I don't know if you agree with that, but I think that
a thousand %.
So to me, the BBL Moxie is just sort of like the most magical thing you can do for someone of all ages, just almost anybody. Obviously, we're not going to do a BBL first on anyone that's tan or, it's not safe, but I just mean everyone can benefit from that. And I feel like the results of that, everyone sees a result. Everyone's happy. That's just sort of how I feel about those. I think that's a great place to start. If you can't afford a BBL Moxie, just a BBL for sure. But then instead of a halo, I might have gone Moxie, because I think that's a better price point for people, better recovery for people. So we just did halo, because Moxie, I don't think Moxie wasn't even out. So we just got a halo, but I would have gotten a Moxie first.
I always like to say to patients, or my preceptorships, or from the podium when they ask a question, I built a very nice practice treating patients conservatively, under treating patients. You can't start a practice over treating them. So the last thing you want to do is do what I do every day, and the aggressive contour laser resurfacing. One is that everybody could benefit from the BBL Moxie, as we know, with the genetic studies, and 3 BBLs a year. And it's just opened up so many verticals to me. And I've talked about that. I talk about it on the Mint platform, if you want to go and listen to that. But it's all about what I call skin to life, and how we progress that. So you got the halo. And then after that, your next one was what?
It was an M-Jewel. So then we got a BBL Moxie, because we needed another BBL. Because again, how did we know? Well, people couldn't get in for BBL. It's just, but they couldn't get in for them, and people were we just knew the pressure. Our front desk communicating, hey, people just can't get in, for BBL. They're frustrated. They can't get in for BBL. Okay, so we need another BBL. I mean, and then of course you're going to need more people. And again, I don't know we've hired more people. You have to hire providers to administer those, but the MJewel, and that's what we have now. I mean, and then we got a Lutronics India, Clarity 2, but that's, as far as lasers go, that's what we have now. We're about to have 2 MJewels, a BBL Halo, and the India and the Clarity 2. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you went with the Lutronic on the hair removal.
Yes.
And I know Kathy and Matt and I really love that device.
Love it.
And so would you,
that might even, I was thinking about something that I might have, we always were hesitant to bring on laser hair. I don't know how you feel about this at your practice too. We always kind of said, that's kind of, it's a little bit more med spa-y than we wanted to be, a little more of a a medically derm run. We just weren't like sure if we wanted to have the laser hair patient population. But I would tell you, I think that as a whole, that became something that we were referring out a lot. And then it was like, we've established these patients. So I guess what I'm saying is, I think it's okay that we didn't buy it right at the beginning. I think it's something that maybe you get your patients established, like the patients that you like and are fairly like your demographic you want, then all of those people will want laser hair, right? And so then they all just did laser hair. And so I agree that it's not like you don't want to be a med spa that's just laser hair special. Like, that's not what you want to flag as like your big seller at your med spa. But I think if you don't have it, they'll go somewhere else for it. And so you want to have it in-house. So for us, it's been extremely, successful. And we love that we can now just use it here. Plus there's uses for some medical derm stuff too. So we love it having it.
Yeah, because it has the 755,
yes,
and it is probably the best wavelength for laser hair removal. Yes. It also has the YAG, yes, which is great for people with skin of color, and it's a vascular laser. So you talk about that all the time. One thing I do want to say just for a minute, that it's really important, because what we're trying to do here is try to educate people in what's important in a med spa, the business side of it. And so I think what you said was really important. I don't think when you're first starting out, although you realize it's important now, I think you made a wise statement that I didn't do laser hair removal in my new practice. You and I have the same story. I mean, I started over and did a solo practice. But I got my laser hair removal once I got up and running, because there's a great study in the PRNS. It's one of the most quoted studies in the history of the PRS, the White Journal, and it's called the 747 study. And I've always had it at the front of my mind that they did a study that if you have everything the patient can offer and they don't need to go out, the chance of them leaving you, if they haven't seen anybody else, is 7%. But if they go out and they see anybody else one time, the chance of them leaving is 47%. Yeah. So the point is that there's some things that I think are important. You'll never make as much money on laser hair removal as you do the things you just mentioned. But you've got them coming down your hall and they're not leaving, and they're seeing the other things that you're doing. And so I think adding that is a really good thing to do. And I love the Clarity, because it allows you to do some of the difficult vascular cases. And you and I talk about one of the great things about our relationship. Honestly, I'm just going off on a squirrel hunt, but I need to tell them that it is so freaking great. Probably the best thing is to have a dermatologist that I can text and call and whatever. Mm-hmm. And I hope Molly can text me about some surgical things. It's just one of the most greatest blessings of having a daughter who can do this. It's fun, really, from a father and daughter relationship, but it's actually very practical. Most surgeons would love to have a derm on speed dial.
Yes. Well, I think I probably needed your advice way more than you needed mine, but it is, on that note, I mean, it is really, one of the questions I think that you were going to ask me is like, what do I love about my practice? And I really do love, and I'm not saying, it's not like this is how every practice has to be, but it is very fun to connect the medical derm with the cosmetics and have just have such a camaraderie amongst all of the medical providers, the cosmetic, and we're just, we teach each other things all the time, just like you and I mean, you're continuing to learn no matter where you are in your career from all angles. And so it's like using what we know in the medical side of dermatology for the cosmetics and vice versa. And we just all, no one's but I mean, there's obviously a hierarchy, but we're all learning from each other. You know, my estheticians teach me things, I teach them, and it's just a fun, like, melding of knowledge. And it's been really fun to kind of have that. And I think, like you said about patients wanting one space, our practice is unique in that we have the medical derm and the cosmetics. And I do think people love being able to get their skin checked and look at a worrisome spot and see, somebody in our med spa at the same time. And what's great is, obviously, I love our estheticians know if there's a spot that looks weird or a patient complains of something, they can come grab us. And we're all, I think I love about our practice that our patients feel very taken care of from all of those aspects. That's what I'll say.
Yeah, well, I my sense of humor, but I remember right where I was, because you decided you were going into dermatology and you got accepted, and I had some issue on my face. It was kind of a cute thing. I can't remember exactly, but I had to go down to our dermatologist in our building, and so I had to wait, and I was sitting there. I don't know if you remember this, but
yeah.
but I looked up and I was looking at all these people going to different rooms, and I'd go up and I'd ask and I'd say, now, what is she? She's in medical derm. She's an extender. She does laser hair removal.
Yeah.
This does nothing but lasers. This one does injections. And I called you on the phone and I said, or I texted you and I said, Molly, you just won the freaking lottery. And there's so many verticals here. It's crazy.
Yeah.
They all tie together, and it clicked for me. And it's true of plastic surgery. It's true for professionals. But for those people that, and I always wondered about, what's it going to be like if I stop doing surgery, which I may do here pretty soon. How's that going to impact my non-surgical practice? And I'm just here to tell you that Kathy and I have talked about this. We've seen them. I just saw, I see many people that if they do it well and they buy the right equipment and they study hard, and they're I know nurse practitioners in certain states where they can do that are probably listening to this podcast, are wildly successful, just as successful as I am. So it actually shows me that, don't get lazy and rely on my surgical practice to feed your derm practice.
For sure.
But you're really good. I know that might be a good segue into how do you use social media, website, and things to drive your practice besides just the dermatology practice? Because you're pretty good at it.
Hey listeners, don't forget to submit your questions for the second part of this series. All of your questions will be answered by the guests on the second part of their episode. Okay, get back to listening.
Well, I mean, I think that it all started out very organically, like just me, before I left my previous practice, I just started an Instagram for myself and just started posting before and afters. I think as a whole, it's people just like to see before and after pictures. They like to see what the experience looks like. I think that right now in our day and age, social media, specifically like Instagram, is just where people go to get their knowledge and decide on what they're gonna, spend their money on, whether it be clothes or, cosmetic procedures or whatever. They just go there and they want to see content. And so, I think so. I have always been really big on, showing, like, those patients that I know are going to let me post their picture. I just think showing before and after pictures is so key. Patients are going to want to come see what your practice has to offer. And even though you and I could have the same picture, it's not like our practice does a BBL Moxie better than yours or vice versa. It's just, they just want to see it. They want to go where it's in their face. They see those results and go, wow, that's a great result. That practice can get that result. I think, and just being, we could always spend, it's a funny question right now, because in my head, I'm thinking, okay, our practice, you could always do more, right? And it takes effort to market yourself on social media, to be honest with you. It takes putting yourself out there and developing content. And we have someone that helps us, but we don't have, like in your practice, I know you have somebody that does that, like that's their job. So it's a lot of work on our part, to be honest. And so always an area we could improve on, but an area that I think is super important. In that note, I'll kind of touch on a couple of things we do, like just marketing sale wise, that I think I wanted to kind of tell people about is we never wanted to be kind of like a sale every week, every month there's a different sale, or like everything's on sale. We kind of don't do a lot of specials, but we just price our procedures fairly high from the beginning. And then we offer our kind of big overview is once a year we have like a virtual open house where it's like 1 week everything is 20% off, and you call and you prepay for those procedures. And so people will buy their stuff for the whole year. It's sort of like, filling your bank with your stuff, but you get it all at 20% off. And that's been very successful and sort of just creates loyalty amongst all those people. Just obviously they're going to do all of their procedures at your office for that, for that whole year. And it's a way to reward our loyal patients that are established loyal patients, right? That just, they get a discount, right? But people will still come in and pay full price if you're new, but those patients get that discount. And then we really push gift cards. We'll do once a year, we do a gift card sale. And that really, again, is another way to get money up front, and it encourages people giving gift cards to bring new patients in the practice. And so we'll market all of that, send blast emails to all of our cosmetic patients and market that on Instagram. And so those have been ways that have really, I think, helped we've marketed that. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Well, anything else that, I mean, I know you wouldn't say it, but I will. You have a very successful practice, both derm and I know it. I mean, I'm not kidding. She used to be my daughter, and now I'm her father. I mean, it is totally true. It's totally true. And I love it. But the fact is that anything else, I mean, what is your philosophy on, it's one of my passions, as we talk about all the time. It can't be underestimated, but culture and service, because you've been really successful. You've added on, almost doubled your space. And I think we talked about it last week that you really like more space. And so you're really, this is not just somebody that got on here that's my daughter. It's somebody that's really been successful in a short period of time. So we're trying to learn from you.
Well, that's sweet. So I do have some advice there. So, I mean, obviously anyone that opens up a practice is going to realize that customer service is paramount, and the people that greet your patients when they walk in the door, the whole experience of it all needs to be a pleasant one, right? And so I'm real big on front desk greeting, and that's the first people they see when they walk in the door. Those people, non-negotiable, have to be friendly, have to be nice. And I am a huge proponent for feedback of all kinds. So I would, little things like when we hire a new front desk, I will, I grew up here in Dallas. So many of my patients are my friends or people I know now, having been in practice 8 years. So I will text them, and I'll just be like, hey, how was your experience with Sarah today? She's new. Did you feel, we have a new esthetician. I will go through their schedule and text the people I know and just say, hey, give me your feedback on her. Did you feel like she was great? I want to hear from the people that experience them. We're back doing our thing in our rooms and in our office, and they really are my patients are the ones that can give me the feedback. So I get feedback there. And so that the whole experience, from check-in to check-out should be pleasant. And that's really important to me. The other thing that I think is important is, I think that when you're doing a cosmetic consultation and when you're seeing a patient, they'll say, what else do you recommend? Right. Or they'll ask me about something specific. Oh, I heard such and such is amazing for the saggy neck or whatever. And I think patients really appreciate when they see that you're going to be honest about, hey, you know what? I think actually that's not, I use the word low hanging fruit a lot in my consultations. Like, that's just not low hanging fruit. We're not, I think you're going to waste your money and be disappointed if you start there. Right. Let's talk about some things that will really be a big bang for your buck and that are easy to fix and relatively, budget friendly. That's all relative, but I just mean that that's not going to break the bank, but that we can really see a difference with. And so I always start there where you hook them with, obviously toxin's the easiest place to hook anybody. That's a no brainer. Any new patient, you always should put some sort of toxin in their face so that they see a difference in 2 weeks. And then they're like, wow, that's magical. What else do you have? Right. So I'm a huge proponent of that.
Hi everyone, it's Kathy Toronto. Did you know the making of a multi-million-dollar Medspa podcast is one piece of a whole training company? As longtime members of the aesthetic industry, my husband Matt and I have created Mint Aesthetics to provide dedicated training to aesthetic professionals across the country. Whether you prefer hands-on training, immersive virtual sessions, or the flexibility of online e-courses, Mint has a training option for you. Elevate your skills with our expert-led hands-on training. We will gain practical expertise and refine your techniques. Dive into our immersive virtual training sessions led by industry experts right from the comfort of your own space. Looking to expand your knowledge base? Our online e-courses provide a comprehensive curriculum designed to enhance your expertise at your own pace. And for those seeking to take their business to the next level, our specialized business consulting services offer tailored strategies for growth and success. Learn how you can take your aesthetic skills to the next level at mintaesthetics.com.
And I think telling patients that some things aren't the best for them, and like counseling them that, hey, actually don't spend money with us in that way. I don't think you need that. I think that patients just really feel like you're looking out for their best interest when you dissuade them from some things that even you could make money from. Me referring out for lower blephs instead of doing filler in someone's face, that didn't make me money, but I can tell you that they'll come back for other things, right? Because they trust me.
And I do appreciate that referral.
Yeah, exactly. I refer out to you all the time. Exactly. And it's the truth, because I think if the last thing I want to do is waste people's money on things where they're not going to be happy in the end. And really they should just, I think if your main goal is you want that patient to be happy in the end with their result, you just have to really think about that honestly. And money is a fabulous thing. It's why we do this. Creates a living, but it's not my driving factor in my consultations and the decisions we make. It's truly just how is this patient going to get the best results? Yeah.
So I'd love for you to, I just think that's super important. And, if you did this, I would have to kill you, but we've talked about it so many times, because I hear people, on social media and sometimes in meetings, and they'll go, well, this is as good as a facelift. This is facelift in a bottle. This laser is like 3 of these is like a facelift, and you can't grow up in my house and say that. So I really believe that I think your patients really appreciate it. And the patients you send me love you, but how do you have that conversation when someone comes in? What do they do? What do they say when you go, okay, you've crossed the line? Tell me about that.
You mean when I have to tell them that I can't help them, you have to go somewhere else?
Yeah, I do. I think, who are the patients you can't help, and where do you draw the line? How do you refer them out?
Yeah. I mean, the patients, just two on Monday I sent out because they came in with, huge, orbital fat pad protrusion, needed a bleph, and they had seen some picture I'd posted on Instagram of a, mid-cheek tear trough filler, and thought that I could magically make that all go away. And, I just have to tell them that, that's not going to be what's best for them in the long run. And that's just the truth. Selfishly, I don't want to deal with them not being happy and the complicated and all of that. But at the end of the day, they're going to end up spending more money and more time and effort doing that. And really the best result for them in the long run, the permanent solution, is surgery. So I think growing up, yes, as a plastic surgeon's daughter, I always knew that surgery is more of a long-term fix than anything that we can do. Now, so I just think it's all about the right candidate for things, right? Like, I just turn people away a lot for things that I don't think they're a good candidate. I've learned in doing cosmetics that it really isn't worth my time either. If I know that patient isn't going to be happy with what I do, and they're going to end up spending way too much money and not get the result, or it's just not going to settle well, why would we do that, right? Or if they come in, for instance, with very deep perioral rhytides, my halo isn't going to do what your ProFrac can do. So it's expectations. But if they don't want the downtime that you would give, or they don't want the scary laser, well, cool, that's fine. Stay with me and do the halo. But I'm just going to tell you, you're not going to get the result. So it's all about, I mean, I'm a big communicator. I want to communicate. Expectations are so key in cosmetics. I mean, I think you under promise, over deliver with everything. And I think the patients gain your trust though. And so even those patients I send out to you, unless you steal them away from me, they will usually come back and know that, hey, I'm going to tell them what I think is going to be best for them, even if it means me not making money off them. And so they'll say, what else? And I'll say, great, you need a BBL Moxie. You know what I mean? Like then somehow I end up making money off of them, but everyone's happy in the end. Right.
I just think that people, the reason I wanted to discuss that, I think there's a lot of people here listening that have this, and it's understandable. You're starting out, you spend a lot of money, but you don't want to let go of anybody. And I'm just thinking that'll hurt you in the long run.
Yeah.
They know they can trust you. And if you send it off to me and I don't send it back, never send me another patient. Because but I mean, whoever they send to in their town, there's got to be a reciprocal thing. And but I think it's a good thing. And I'm glad we discussed that.
Yeah.
One of the things that we skipped over, and I want to talk about it, it's a funny story. It's funny now. It wasn't funny. And so I really want to say that Molly taught me a lesson, and I learned it too late. But, I went and started a practice at one of the most prestigious plastic surgery programs in the world. And I walked in the first day and they said, there's your desk, clinic's on Tuesday. And I walked in and they took care of me. And that's all I ever knew until Molly did her practice. So Molly was opening her practice and I literally didn't comment a lot. And I didn't, and Molly and I are very emotional and whatever. And she really called me out and I hurt her feelings really badly. And I had to apologize. I mean, it was serious. I'm not kidding. It was a big deal. But she was telling me that, Dad, you have no idea, what I've just done. This is a big deal. And I really wasn't telling her because, I totally loved her and I was very proud of her. Part of it was me being busy, but part of it, I really didn't understand. And it was interesting that a year or two later, or whatever it was, or maybe 3, I can't remember, but, I had circumstances where I had to start over totally. And I had to do all the things that she had been telling me. And I went and told her, I said, Molly, oh my God, now, I thought I understood. I am a schmuck. I had no idea what it was like starting a practice. So I really would love to know if you could tell the people, what was the hardest things that you did, the best thing you did? Can you give them any advice about if they had to start a practice from scratch, what would you tell them?
Yeah. You never really understand how hard it is until you do it. So just like when I joined mine, I didn't know what it took to start that one when I right out of residency. So you don't never know. So I think that the hardest part, there's just I think there's just so many moving parts to starting a practice where it all has to align. It's like building a house. It's like building anything where there's a lot of people involved and there's a lot of timelines and a lot of, deadlines and all these things. And so just managing all that is just the hardest part of it. There's so many details I could go into, but I just think just organizing the timeline and getting everybody on board to start at the same time and all of that is it's overwhelming, right? Like just to get all that organized. I started mine with a partner and my husband runs our practice, everything but the actual seeing patients he takes charge of. And so he was the one that managed all the money and the loans and all of that stuff, which I would highly advise that somebody that really knows money and taxes and all of that, help them on that journey. That was invaluable to have him.
He's an accountant, CPA, and a banker as well. Yeah.
Yes. And so he had that background, his CPA background. And so he does all our financials. And again, that would be something I would also say, just advice is you need to find somebody, it's common sense, but like that you trust to handle all your finances. There's a million stories about people that just, just do terrible things with people's with the practice money and are not trustworthy. And so finding somebody that you can really rely on, and that has your best interest. Obviously, ours is my husband, so let's hope he's not. I mean, we can trust him, but it's or at least I think we can. But that's an advice there. And then I think but the easy, the fun part of it, I mean, it's also, I mean, you and I've talked about this, it's also just the best thing we've ever done. So I think we don't need to also just, I mean, it is hard, but anything worth doing is hard, right? When has anything amazing ever been easy to do? It's like, you do it, and then the day you open up those doors and you see your first patient make your first dollar, it's all worth it, right? And you're the one in charge now, and it's so liberating and just empowering, and the pride of just like, we started this, we did this, and somehow it all just does come together. And you learn, right? There's kinks, and you figure out that this doesn't work, and then you pivot, and that's just the nature of starting a practice. And so, and you heed advice from others. I mean, I think it's just, I get questions all the time, and I'm happy to give info to anyone that has questions, because it just takes, we're all in this together. I mean, you can't be, too prideful where you don't give people advice. I'm always happy to give anybody advice on starting a practice and what I've learned. Right.
I think that, that's wise. I mean, I think that many people know that some may not, but Jenny and I run a ministry for, it's a Christian ministry for families. They get caught up in addiction, and one of the biggest problems there, I see the whole world through that lens. In my practice, what you just said is really important. If you're prideful and you don't listen to advice, you're going to go down. You're going to go down a really bad path. Listen to people who have done it.
Yeah.
Community you'll listen to. Parents come and they want to change, and then they say they want to change, but they don't want to change. And if you like where you are, keep doing what you're doing. The point is, a lot of people have done it. I would give you one example. Mint Aesthetics is amazing. If you want to go to Mint Aesthetics and train your estheticians or your front desk or your managers, or how to start a practice and how to market, I was going to try to do that. And then I ran into Matt and Kathy, and I saw it on the internet, and I said, if I live 3 lifetimes, I'll never make something this good. So I'm very privileged to be a part of it now, running the Premier thing, but they can really help you when you start your practice and you're growing your practice. So we're going to wrap it up. We've been here an hour, and we're going to go. There's a few more things I want to talk about. And I want to just finish off with one thing, business-wise.
For listening to the Making a Multi-Million-Dollar Medspa podcast. We are honored to have the opportunity to support your practice. If you like this podcast, we would love it if you left a review. Ratings and reviews allow more practices and industry professionals to find us. If this episode has inspired you, share it with a friend. Together, we can empower our community through continuous learning. We truly value your support of the podcast.
One pearl and something fun. So the business thing is, so can you tell people how, a lot of people are going to think that I tell you what to do, and that would be absolutely laughable. Now you listen to me, but how do you make decisions on the next laser to buy? And are you thinking in your practice, I'm not going to ask you this, but are you thinking you're going to just keep duplicating the procedures you do well? Or how do you know, are you going to branch out and get some new technology and, create another vertical or something like that?
Yeah.
How do you process that? I know we process a lot, and that might be a lot of people, but I think it's a fair question, because a lot of people, call me, and they're not my daughter, and they call me and say, what do you think? Or they see me at meetings. And, I want to say that KOLs are available. I'm available for you probably more than any KOL on the planet, but a lot of people come up and take advantage of us being at a meeting, and it's not something we really dislike.
Yeah.
We like to share our deal. So how do you go about processing that? Is it studies you read? Is it reps? How do you manage reps? You got any pearls on that? You don't have to get extensive, but anything pops in mind?
I mean, I don't know. I think it sounds just simple, but it's like, it's just the thing. Like, I think the things that we feel like we can't help with, like, for instance, I mean, it was just even things like vascular vessels on people's faces that the BBL wasn't getting, spider angiomas. I was referring out for those. And so I wanted a vascular laser. I knew that we would use it. I think if people aren't asking for it, or saying, hey, I can't get in for a BBL Moxie this fall. Okay. You just listen. I mean, I feel like in a weird way, I just listen to my patients a lot. I get feedback a lot. And when I'm referring out for something, it's a thought of, do I need to get it? Now, in our practice specifically, we're dermatologists, and not plastic surgeons. So for us, we've always kind of said we're staying like chest up, like, the whole body contouring and all of that a lot of med spas do. We have not gotten into that. And I don't know if we ever will. And so I want to say, I think that's okay too. And I think in my mind, I sort of just want to, really strengthen and help the neck. I mean, the chest up is sort of where we land, and we're skin doctors. So we want to help. We want healthy skin, glowing skin. We really love focusing on the skin more than anything. And so that's where we kind of land. I mean, again, I think that I'm referring out for, lots of neck and lower face and all the things that surgical, or maybe it's a device we don't have yet, but I don't want to buy a device that only a few patients can afford to use or will use. I think it depends on your population. We have a very overall younger population of 30s and 40s, early. That's the majority of it. And so as our population ages, it may be that they're asking for different things, and we look, you know what I mean? We look into different things that our patients are asking for, and that I'm having to refer out to. But I do think there's a bread and butter of, that the recurring BBL, Moxie, Halo, those things that everybody will do every year for the rest of their life. So you want to make sure you have enough space for all of that, right? And that you can continue that.
Yeah, I agree. I think what I heard you say, if I could summarize that, was very wise. You're letting your patients and their demands guide you rather than reps who buy you lunch. And I love reps, and they're great. Some better than others. But I think that if you decide you need another vertical, I think that's your first step. And then the second step is then, okay, which laser in that vertical should I buy?
For sure.
And then I think that's great. And how you do that is, I would just recommend that. I mean, Mint has a lot of stuff on that. You come to me with a lot of that, and then do your homework. And then, but you bought things that I may not have recommended. And I'm almost over that now. But
yeah, most of the stuff I bought you have recommended.
Yeah, but anyway, I just think most people, it's surprising to me, Molly, how many people think, okay, I think I want to buy this, and then they'll go for low bid or not ask questions and not do their homework, and then they're worried, they're wondering why they've got a paperweight or a coat rack in the wall.
Well, and then last thing, I mean, it goes without saying, quality devices pay for themselves. So without a doubt, don't buy the cheapest a BBL is not the cheapest photofacial, but it's the best. And period. And so that's what you start off with. I mean, that's what I think, that's why we started off with that. And so it's like, that is, you're never going to regret spending a little more upfront. It will pay for itself. That's my.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to close. I want you to tell them one pearl, the biggest pearl that I've learned from my daughter, although she's taught me many. But I have a part in my preceptorship where I teach, and I talk about, okay, we get the wrinkles, the reds, the browns, the texture, the pore size, and all this kind of stuff. But then there's some specialty things like rhinophyma and other little things that people come to me to make their skin look great. They're expecting me to get every barnacle they have on, anything that's hanging on their skin. They want it to be perfect. So one of the things is sebaceous hyperplasia. So if they have 4 or 5, I can take care of it. And Molly's taught me to add a little hypercation, what she does in her office. But let me just tell you, Molly, if they have more than 10 of those, and their face looks, I've seen some of the worst looking skin that I couldn't put my hand on it, and they've got hundreds of those sebaceous hyperplasias. Molly has changed my life. I send them to her. Tell them about what you do for those.
Yeah. So, I mean, if for the patients that have that oily sebaceous hyperplasia prone skin, big pores, they just do super, super well with low dose Accutane. And this is obviously not how Accutane is not approved to treat sebaceous hyperplasia and pore size. And obviously it goes without saying, there's great caution in who you prescribe this to. Men are fabulous candidates. They don't have to do the pregnancy test. We're not worried about them getting pregnant. And so they're fabulous candidates. And then females, post-menopausal females are my favorites because we don't have to worry about them either. If you take away that aspect of Accutane and do very, very low Accutane, it's a extremely safe medication that is just pure magic for pore size and sebaceous hyperplasia. It truly makes them melt away. So I do anything, you end up doing anywhere from 20 milligrams a week to 10 milligrams a day, something like that on these patients. And they are so happy. And we kind of joke that if you do that in any patient, they will think anything else you do is magical because it's the Accutane itself is magical. So everything else is icing on the cake. Hear me when I say I'm not advocating for everybody to get on Accutane. You have to do it low dose. You have to know how to prescribe this medication and all the risk involved. But if you are a dermatologist and have experience with Accutane, I would think about including that in your practice, your cosmetic patients.
I never prescribe it. I tell people out there, if you're not a dermatologist, you shouldn't prescribe it, but you should know a dermatologist that knows how to treat this because nothing else is like it. And it is magic. I was at a preceptorship a couple of months ago and I had 2 dermatologists there and I told them the story about how I showed them pictures. I mean, I hope Kathy's can put up some before and afters here, but losing my voice, but it was so funny because these dermatologists started laughing when I told them about it and told them my daughter turned me on to this. And I said, what's funny? And she said, well, if the truth were known, there's a lot of dermatologists, they think our skin looks great and we're all on a little bit of low dose Accutane.
Well, yeah, exactly.
So as we close, so tell me a little bit about my favorite thing about you, and that's your family, your husband, my grandkids. Tell them about your family and what that looks like.
I have been married for almost 10 years to my husband, Trip, who, like I said, runs the whole show behind the scenes. He's a behind the scenes kind of guy, so that's perfect for him. And then I've got 3 kiddos, one that is 7.5 boy. My daughter is almost 6. And then I have a baby girl who just turned 2. And so they are everything to me. And I think to wrap it up, I will just say that, I'm a working mom of 3 young kids. My practice is successful and I love it. But what does drive me is just having that work-life balance, which my practice has offered me to have. I work 3 days a week and get to be fully mom the other 2. And I would probably tell you that those are my more taxing days sometimes, but they're so amazing. And it's having the med spa side of my practice has allowed me not to work every day, which has been the biggest blessing. That's truly my goal is for my kids to be able to say that mom worked hard, was successful, but was also around, to be honest. And so that's the beauty of having a successful med spa, in my opinion.
So I want to say that, man, I'm almost gone, but I think we're going to have to wrap it up because I can't talk. So I do want to say that if I can get this out, you've had opportunities to speak and for industry, and you've turned it down because you had priorities. And so I think that when life comes at you, you can get in a mess. So what drives you? Do you have a mission statement? How do you make those decisions and set boundaries?
Yeah. What drives me, obviously I have a faith in Jesus Christ, and that, at the end of the day, I know that this is not our home and that one day I'll have to answer to God. So I raising my 3 kids and being a wife and mom is my ultimate purpose in life. And so that drives me. But I think that, I think that wanting patient, as far as my practice goes, I'm driven for my patients to feel cared for and valued and have this connection with my patients. And I want them to know that I truly do care. And I think that's just part of what drives me, is wanting, making sure my patients know that I care about them, and I care about them being happy with whatever it is, their skin check or their Botox or their whatever we do for them. And I think that's, all of us want to feel like we are being cared for and that we are important. And so that's what I try to come across to my patients. So,
well, it's been great. And I'm right up against the edge because I cannot talk anymore.
that is hilarious.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Wow.
So anyway, I feel great. Yeah. I'm going to go take some steroids and some
Okay, you do that. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
all right. Well, thanks for having me.
It's a wrap. We love you. And we'll see you at the next podcast.
All right. Thanks, Dad. Bye.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. We would love it if you left a review to help other providers and clinics find us. Also, if you want more information about anything we discussed in this episode, check out our show notes. Until next time, this has been the Making a Multi-Million Dollar Medspa podcast.